Hello and welcome to the Daft Souls podcast. I think it's episode number 32, and I'm joined today by Mr. Gavin Murphy.
32 is fuck all.
I know, right? We barely even started.
That's barely one a day if you were doing it for a whole month.
I know, but I'm not doing one a month. I'm not even doing one a week sometimes. And I'm also joined by Mr. Jim Trinker.
All right.
How you doing?
With Gav once again.
I know, actually.
It's deja vu.
I think it was like...
Is he the only one that'll come on with me?
I think so, yeah.
No, I think it's like generally anytime I look at the hangout and I go, nothing to do with the other guests who come on, obviously, but I mean, two of them I'm on another podcast with, so I'm not always in a rush to be on. I love them, but anytime it's just like, oh, I got Jim next, and he's like, fucking, I love that.
Yeah, there are certain like criteria which just go like hotcakes.
Yeah.
Jim appearing on the podcast is something that people are like, oh no, I missed it. And the other one, the rare occasions when my mum happens to be staying, which means you get dinner.
Yeah.
And I think last time that happened, everyone who was on the podcast was like, I think it was Quinns and Joe, and they're both like, oh, when's your mum coming again? Yeah. Book us in for the podcast again in advance, sort of thing.
Yeah, I'd like to do one with Chris Pratt. I've never done one with him. I'd like to do that. But I also think maybe we should do like one like Royal Rumble style one where like we have like three, and then if you want to say something, you have to batter the other one.
Wow.
To get on it.
Wow. I mean, you're basically following on from the last time we had this combination
Oh,
podcast
yeah,
when
shit.
you tried to organise a giant fight.
With Gamergate, and none of them fucking stepped up.
Yeah,
So-
less than, like,
leads back to violence.
Less than
Yeah.
2 minutes in and you're already trying to
We get the
incite
Fight Club.
violence. Talking about inciting violence, actually,
Yes.
I'll briefly say, because I spent bloody ages talking last podcast about Dying Light with Steve and about how I really like Dying Light, etc. But I'm pretty sure I caveated that it's good, but wait till it's available in retail because £50 for a game
mad.
is madness. If I didn't explicitly say that, then I apologise because I've had a few people since who said, "Oh, I bought it already." It's like, well, you're mad then because don't do that. But what I will say is,
a lot of over 50 quid in fairness.
Well, you do, but that's the thing. And the thing is, I'd just like to follow that up really briefly to say, I like it a lot. And all the things I said last week were very true and don't change.
And you're going to refund anyone who's bought it the 10 quid difference between when it comes out in the shops. That's so kind of
I'm going
you.
to fight anyone who bought it. No, I just say that basically, everything I said was true. But I've since realised that, oh my God, the story is just awful and there's so much of it and it doesn't end and it's just lots of men shouting at each other and it's just incredibly tiresome and it's got way, way too many NPC side quest things and I don't know. I really still like it. I love the systems. I love going around the world. But if you're the sort of person who gets a bit turned off by just having like a really bloated, cliched story and bad characters, then maybe
Then I like you. Well done.
Then I like you and I won't fight you.
It's hard though because I saw a bunch of people tweeting. I saw like the BitSocket guys definitely tweet this, and I think possibly Midnight Resistance, where it was like, it's the kind of game, and then like people know what kind of gamer you are. You know you're going to play that game for 20 hours, 25 hours, and then you're going to to go, I'm going to swap this for something else now. But I've seen everything this game has the whole. As soon as you get like that top level, that's it.
Well, the thing was, I was really enjoying it, right? And what I really enjoyed was just going around the map gradually, like Assassin's Creeding it, basically, of being like, oh, haven't got that outpost. But once I'd done all of the safe houses, and I love the process of getting a safe house. Go in, clear out the zombies, lock it down so more zombies can't get in, switch the power back on.
It's like Far Cry. Like, it's really, really good with like the outposts and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's like, I love that it's thematically really works, this idea of being like, this is a safe place now, I made it safe.
It makes sense in the sort of world of the game.
It means that you actually get really excited when you're like at night and you're being chased by a bunch of scary fucking things.
Yeah.
And you think you're going to die, and then you realise that you're really close to a safe house, and you get in, and you're like, I'm alive, and I'm alive because I did this. I made this safe. But the problem is, once I'd unlocked all of those things after about sort of 8 or 9 hours, it was just like, well, what do I do now? And I thought, oh, well, there is another area in the game. Like, there is going to be a bigger bit, because I'd seen videos on the internet.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I'll go and get the other area. But then I just started concentrating on the story and the story missions. Yeah. And it's just fucking awful.
Good, yeah.
It's just one of these things where I'm beginning to wonder, and actually the video I'm just sort of like very almost finished making about it, it's something I kind of wonder if it's now just a horrible symptom of AAA games that... Because the thing is, like, stories in games and characters in games have never been good. And they don't need to be good for you to enjoy games. If they did, then we would have given up.
I don't know. Like... the games that I enjoy are games with stories and stuff. Like with Far Cry, I don't do any of the side stuff. I'd go all the way through the story because I want to know the story. Unfortunately, the stories are shit. But like they are amazing stories in games, and that's why I play games, definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't like at the start. People now you do get games with good stories, but it's not essential that you have a good story. But the problem is now it just sort of feels like with a lot of AAA games that they just feel the need to have this really big, long story.
Okay.
And I just don't want it. And it's just really weird how I look at it and like, you know, everyone slagged off Destiny, but at the same time, Destiny didn't really have a story.
I couldn't tell you what the storyline Destiny
But the thing is, it was a good enough game.
Yeah.
That you don't need a story.
No, that's fair enough.
You just go, doesn't matter. And the thing about Dying Light is it's a good enough game, pretty much, that it didn't really need a story. It could have just had a much looser, lighter thing.
Yeah, but then you did say that you got bored of doing everything, so you needed something else, and you thought you'd do the story. Was it that you got bored, or was it that you thought you wanted to do something else?
I wanted more map. I wanted more stuff. I'd seen the whole world.
Yeah.
I'd been around it a few times, and I was like,
so you had to do. Okay, fine.
I was like, I have to. If I want to keep doing this, I have to keep doing it. And and also I really like the way that in the early bits of the story, it's all very like zombie things and being like, you've got to go here and get these supplies. You've got to go here and switch the power back on.
Yeah.
And then like as it goes on, it just does this. It falls into that traditional rut of video games thing of being like, well, at one point I just found myself in a fucking underground car park shooting men with an assault rifle. And I'm just like, what is this? Yeah. Like, this isn't the game I want to play. Like, why are you making me do all this stuff? So it's not terrible, but it falls into the trap of just doing the, like, look, it's a AAA game.
Yeah.
You do a bit where you got guns, you do a bit where you go and save the lady, and it's like, you didn't need to do this. Like, you'd made a really good survival horror third-person action game. And I don't know, I just find it weird that you've got these contrasts between something like this and something like Far Cry, which just feels the need. Like Far Cry 3, I got fucking fed up with because of the story. I was like,
I hated every single character in Far Cry 3, I think. Yeah.
It's just like a giant douche canoe sent out to sea on fire. But, yeah, like, then you look at stuff like DayZ, right? Which just doesn't have any story. I just think it's interesting at the moment. You look at like a lot of really successful games at the moment where they just create good worlds and good systems and let you kind of play in them.
Yeah.
And then like with a loose framework.
Well, it reminded me, like what you just said then, it reminded me of like GTA 5 because the first time, when I played GTA 5, the first time it was like, okay, this is normal GTA 5. And then you got to the first heist and I was like, this is fucking incredible. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, when I was doing that first heist, it felt like I was like, okay, yeah, how would I do this heist? Like, okay, I'm going to spend this amount of money, but I'm only going to get this amount back. And you start doing that, but then you realize there's not that many of them in the game at all. And you do a heist and then you go like,
you just want the next one.
Now you got about 15 hours of just GTA.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, no, I just want the heists.
Yeah.
Which I'm really looking forward to the online heist coming in. I've actually been playing a lot of GTA Online just so I can get my character up to that level. And I think when they introduce that...
Well, you have to level up to be able to do all it all.
You got to be a certain level to be able to do the heist, yeah.
Oh, fuck off.
But also, one of them, like, there's a lot of, like, cool but also shit stuff going on in that as well, whereas like, so say like we're in a gang or whatever, the crew or whatever it is, whatever the fuck they call it, I don't know,
a posse,
we're in the NWA, right?
Yeah.
And so like Jim he's the highest level, he has to front up all the cash
straight out of Comp's Jim.
Yeah, so he has to front up all the cash to be able to do the heist, and then he decides where it gets divvied up to then at the end when we do it successfully or unsuccessfully. There's a lot of really like amazing systems going on in that where you have to have a lot of trust with the people you're going in to do the heist with.
Hang on, surely that means you've just got to play it with friends, otherwise you'll get some 8-year-old kid who says, I'm keeping all the money, bye. Yeah. And then logs off. And
I guess so, yeah.
What the fuck, man?
But then I guess no one's ever going to play a heist with you again, I suppose.
I don't know. Because the problem is, that doesn't really make sense, because in real life, if you were doing a real heist and somebody ran off with all the money, you'd find out where they were and you'd kill them.
Maybe you can. Yeah. Maybe they've introduced that as well.
People do that. It
happens all the time. You think like Reservoir Dogs, they didn't know each other in Reservoir Dogs. They're like, that was the point of it.
Yeah, but how did that end? How did that end up, Reservoir Dogs?
All right, wasn't it?
I mean, there's generally consequences, you know? I like that you brought that up as an example. No, Reservoir Dogs.
No, but like...
I'm pretty sure in Reservoir Dogs, like, one of the first things that happen is somebody gets their ear cut off. But,
that's not one of the first things.
No, they have dinner and they talk about Madonna.
Right, Matt, I'm struggling to control...
You're knocking over the sounds, folding and stuff. Right. Just move forward a bit.
Are you annoyed with that? Because now you have to actually edit this.
No, it's fine. I'm not going to edit. I'm not going to edit. Just get lots of sounds of me.
I've moved closer, but you've moved it closer to me now.
Well, it's supposed to be close. It's because that environment.
It's getting gradually cozier. To
Yeah, I
record
like
the
it.
podcast.
It is.
actually,
It
so-
is. We'll all be on each other's laps in about 10 minutes. No, but I know what you mean. Heists sound good, but I think that is a funny thing of like.
Yeah.
And I think actually one of the things that GTA has always done best is just GTA 5 especially. It's like you've got all this story stuff, but that's not everyone's cup of tea.
No.
So right from the start.
Well, they're
you
all
can just-
awful, like in the story mode. Like, it's not even fun playing the story mode for most of them.
No, that's the thing is a lot of the missions are just bloody tedious. Like just driving around from place A to B.
Yeah, as you say, if I still had that shit where you would get a phone call when you were doing something else. Like,
Yeah.
Except instead of like, I want to go play tennis or whatever, it was your wife wanting to get bailed out of. She'd been arrested by mob. The first time through the game, I went, right, okay, here we go. All right, I'll drive to the shop and whatever.
Yeah.
And this time I just fucking dinged it, and now I just get a text from her every now and then.
You're right.
At me.
What you up to?
It's just like, you're paying the legal fees. I'm like, I don't care. This
I
isn't
have
real.
always felt like the GTA games have had a bit of a misunderstanding of why people like their games.
Definitely.
They always it started with 4 when they just went really heavy with this narrative story, and then wasn't it something like ridiculous? Like I can't remember the exact stats, so I wouldn't say it, but there was like a really small amount of people who played GTA 4 finished it, really small. And I was one of those people. I never finished it.
I never
'cause
finished it.
Fucking went on forever. But I always felt that I've never been one of these people, but I always felt like the people who love GTA, who get really into it,
Yeah.
they just like to get in a car and they don't care who the man in the car is, who the man they're walking around is. They're the man who just goes around shooting at stuff and driving cars and doing jumps. And I think a lot of people, it's just a playground.
No, I don't know. With Vice City, though, I cared about like everything that was going on because I was part of that world. I could just go, do you know what? I'm him for right now. I'm going to play that character. And that was fun. Whereas, like, I think with GTA 5, everyone's a cunt, basically. Like, I don't like any of them. And I don't like Michael. And I hate his family. Like, Franklin is just a dick most of the time. And Trevor, you're really not allowed to like. You're like, otherwise Twitter will go fucking mad.
I can't remember who said it, but somebody said that Trevor was like the one character in GTA 5 that's like he knows he's in a video game and acts like he's in a video game.
Like Deadpool, but in GTA,
It's like almost as if Trevor is meant to be the dickhead that just goes around shooting things instead of doing the story.
I think
missions.
actually I've heard a few
quite
people
like that idea.
Yeah, I like the idea of him being the one that you switch to when you just want to mess stuff up.
Yeah.
When you do want to go around and just cause hell.
Well, I think that's like when I was playing GTA, like a lot of the time, he's funny. Like every time you switch to him, he's doing something mad. Like you switch to him and he's in a lady's dress, passed out on a beach. Or you switch to him, he's no pants on, like taking peyote in the middle of the thing. It's
He's sick off a bridge or something.
Exactly, yeah, and he's always doing these like funny things. But then he also does a lot of like really reprehensible stuff. And he's like, it's like, well, you can't then go, oh well, I empathise most, and I really like Trevor the most. If you go, you're a fucking madman, then aren't you? It's like, all right, well, Michael then, I guess.
I think it's legit. I think you can say that Trevor's your favourite GTA 5 character, and most people would be like, yeah, actually.
That's the thing that's odd, isn't it? Like
Michael's a cunt.
Yeah, but I think like it's odd that I ploughed so much time into that game where I fucking hate every single character, and like I'm a person who just said no, story is important to me.
I can't do it anymore. This is the thing I'm realising. I don't like playing as character. And the thing about it, with Dying Light, I don't mind the main character. I think he's just boring as sauce.
He's just a man.
It's not a phrase. He's just a bloke.
Nondescript man.
Although I had this exact same rant in the video, right?
Yeah.
But I don't understand how many games are there, right, where somebody is working for like a top secret, high level government agency.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they're out in the field being told what to do, they start going, what? I'm not doing that. That's bad. It's like, what's the hiring process? Because I know in real life there are enough people out there who, if you pay them enough money, they will do anything and they will not ask questions. Surely you just hire those people. You'd hire someone being like, part of the interview process would be going, how would you react if we asked you to do something which you thought was unethical or immoral? And you'd hire people who just say, that's not my issue, that's not what I paid for. Like, and you go, you got the job, brilliant. Like,
yeah, but not necessarily all the people that you want doing that job are actually good at that job, though. That's the thing. Like, and you do get, things where people, you're in an interview and you go, okay, so what's this job about? And you go, oh, this job is about this thing. You get the job, you go into the job and you go, actually, no, the job is very different to what I thought I was taking. That happens all the time.
It's
what
true.
this guy's happening.
Yeah, but
but it happens too much in video games.
But
like,
it happens all the time in video games, and it's just the fact right from the start that your bosses and the man are clearly just such nasty people.
Yeah.
It's like, how did this... I don't know, it's like, can you imagine if you hired a hitman, right? And then they just call you like on the night and just, it's like, what are you doing? It's like, I don't know. I've been thinking about this and I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm comfortable killing a person.
Yeah.
Which would be like, I thought you were a hitman. I mean, it's supposed to be... What?
No, that's a fair enough point. Yeah, you have to be. I think you have to be honest in the hiring process. I think that's the conclusion we've come to here.
I think so. I think you just don't lie in interviews. I think that's the moral of the story. Is
I think we should make. Look, I've been thinking about because you see all these people making games, you think it's fucking easy. Let's make a game about like a really boring hiring process in like an office job. Like, and you have to. It's like basically LA Noire, but good.
That's a series of things that I can get behind.
And you have to read people, and you have to decide whether or not to give them the job or not. And then you give them the job, and then it's just like 6 months later, Joan was a cunt. It's all on you. Everyone hates you. You don't get invited to anyone's barbecues anymore. You're like,
that sounds like Recruitment, the game.
Yeah.
Except in Recruitment, you just get the money and then you're done. Doesn't matter if they can't do the job.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jim, what have you been playing?
Life is Strange was the last thing I played.
Okay. I've heard really mixed things about this.
Yeah, very mixed, yeah. I mean, in contrast to what you guys were just talking about, it's all about story, isn't it? So
Yeah, and I played a bit of
little
Remember
game.
Me, and I really didn't like the characterization
Remember
and the
Me.
story. Like, I know a lot of people did, but for me, I just found that, a lot of people really liked it, but I found the tone of it, I just thought...
I really enjoyed it. Like, I really enjoyed it for what it was and what it was trying to do, and I get it. Like, I understood it, and I knew what it was trying to do, and it was succeeding for the most part. But all the things that it's kind of feeding from, all the things it's referencing and stuff like that, is all stuff that I think is shit in any other context.
Is this Life is Strange?
Life is Strange.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
because it's a episodic adventure thing which is set in the 1990s, which is obviously a pretty horrible period.
I don't think it's set in the 90s.
Is it not set in the 90s?
No, it's not set in the 90s because they've got like flash drives and shit, and all the references are quite contemporary in terms of technology and things.
Oh right, I thought that it was set in the 90s. Don't know where I got that from.
I think you're thinking of Gone Home, maybe. But,
maybe.
Or one of those shite games, probably. Gavin. Carry on. No, I really like Life is Strange.
but yeah, right. So people keep making the comparison that it's a bit like indie movies. Actually, Brat was the first person I heard make this comparison. I was like,
I think it's
twat. I can't wait for you to leave.
Yeah, I think it's because it's supported by like the Tribeca Film Festival.
Yeah.
That's why.
And
So instantly,
people talk about like Garden State. It was a fucking terrible.
It's
film
awful.
by a cunt. What's the other one? Juno. It's a terrible film full of cunts.
Nope.
Like
I like both those films.
I can't deal with that shit.
Well, I like both those films in 2004 when you could put it on, get drunk, and definitely have sex that night.
But it's like, so it's that kind of culture that it's, I guess that's its touchstones, right? But then on top of it, there's the whole supernatural element that the main character has the ability to rewind time, and that's the game bit, right? So it's all narrative, and it's all sort of basically Telltale, but a lot more technically competent.
Yeah.
But the game comes in when you make a decision, and after like every kind of fork in the road, and it's very cleverly set up, so there's no kind of obvious right or wrong choices. But at every fork in the road, the voiceover will come on, and your character will be like, I don't know, maybe I should have did this, or maybe I should have done that. I don't know, what do you think? And you can either go back or you don't. Like, it's up to you. But so the first couple of times I got, oh god, she sounds like I've really fucked up there. I better go back and do it. But then the other choice was, she would sound just as regretful. So
it's very much like a Telltale game in that it doesn't really matter.
Well, that's the thing that I think that annoys me about it is that Telltale games, I think the best thing about it is you doubt yourself. You come away from it going, shit, I've made the wrong decision. Whereas this, you come away from it and she's like, maybe I made the wrong decision, but maybe I didn't. And you're like, you're taking out what what I think is good about the Telltale games. It's like, I've made that decision, I've committed to it, whereas this is like...
Well, no, I like
know.
it because it's the fundamental difference that does set it apart from Telltale. And like, you know when you fucked up in a Telltale game. Especially in something like
I don't think you do, though.
Well, yeah, no, it kind of telegraphs it usually that, you know, that there's unless it's like the choice at the end of an episode where it's like who dies and, you know, there is no good.
But then I always think, because I always doubt myself anyway, and I always think I have fucked up. And then you look at the like percentages, which is a really cool thing that Telltale does. You look at the percentages, and then it's pretty much even.
Like you know, does that as well.
And I think like, but by the end, then you think, okay, well. I was down on myself all the way through, but I think if I was the other side, if I had picked the other one, I still would have been down on myself. And I think those animations and those voices and things that make me doubt myself would have still been in the other choice as well, because that's just the nature of it, isn't it? Like, I don't know. Like
I mean, that's, I think it's an illusion. And I think that's the thing is what I like about Telltale games is they keep managing to conjure up the exact same illusion over and over again. If you kind of know that your choices don't make a difference, and you know that everything will be pretty much the same, regardless how you do it, but it really makes you feel like you're to blame for things happening.
But there are, though, because there's characters that aren't in there anymore, and they react in different ways.
I've got to say, I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but apparently, like, episode 2 of the Game of Thrones thing still does that fucking awful visual thing that makes the background look like it's been dipped in jam.
Yeah.
But anyway, there was a bit in the first episode, right, and I won't spoil it, but there's a bit in the first episode which wasn't a major choice, and it wasn't actually flagged up at the end screen of being like the percentages of people did stuff. There's a bit where you could do something, and you could basically just... It gave you the option to just do something, which I didn't do because the idea of it scared the hell out of me, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was like, that's interesting, but I didn't really know what would lead from that. I was like, it didn't seem to be that anything would happen. And I get the impression that actually that doesn't happen in the first episode. In the second episode, you get a chance, if you did do that, you get a chance to follow that on with something else, which I think is interesting because it's something that hasn't really been done. All of the things so far, all the ones I've played anyway in the Telltale games, they've been quite self-enclosed in terms of like, if you do something in one episode, there might be an effect in the next episode in terms of like, somebody being like, you know, oh, Dave, you will remember that. Being like, yeah, last week you wouldn't let me
You call me
do
a
that.
prick.
You call me a prick, you prick.
Yeah.
But it's nice that they actually have done something a bit more like, you did that, so now you can do this.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see if they pick that up a bit more. But
I think the people who make these games are wary of locking you out of... This is going to sound like such a wanky way of saying it, but kind of locking you out of content if you made a certain choice. So like if you make a choice that means in the episode after you don't get to go to a certain location, that's dependent on what.
Well, it feels like the problem is then they treat it as a waste of assets.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think they need to get out of thinking that way. Like, you know,
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because isn't it, there's a guy in the season 1 of Walking Dead, and it's very early on. You decide whether or not the lady's going to die or the man's going to die. The man is a dick. He dies like every single time. And then it's like no one kept him alive. Like, has that actor then got to record all his script for the entire thing, and no one's fucking listening
like, I remember
to it?
finishing it, and it was something like when I did it anyway. It was like 9% of people had kept him alive.
Yeah,
It's like that's not many people. And I just felt bad because like the guy who did the voice acting for that probably tells his friends, I was in the Walking Dead game. Oh wow, were you? Who were you?
Yeah.
That guy, who's that?
Yeah.
You know, the guy in the I had him killed.
I spoke to the guy the other day, Gary Witter. He wrote the script for the entire first season. He's just written the first Star Wars spin-off as well.
Yeah.
So I spoke to him about it, like, and whether or not this was a thing when he was writing it. Like, were you writing anything? And it never was. He was like, no, I wrote different people, and I wrote and I had a story for every single person. I would write that story, and then they would put that into the game, and how people decided to go with it was up to them. And I was like, that's actually really cool. So you almost like when character per character written these, dialogue trees and these like storylines for all of them, and just like, it's up to you lot. And I think that what he said sounds more freeing than actually playing the game, I think.
Yeah, the thing about like creating content just for not worrying that everyone has to see it, or I think that's it's difficult for people to do that. I think the most famous example of that is probably like the whole Witcher 2 thing, the whole fact that based on the decision you make about halfway through The Witcher 2, you then just have an entire chapter of the game which is just different. If like there's 2 chapters, like the 3rd chapter or the 4th is like there's 2 different ones you can get, and that's insane. That's like a huge amount of stuff which you're just not going to see. But that's kind of a commitment to it. But I remember, I think it was Bungie talking about one of the Halo games about how they had this one bit where this, like, it's been ages making this massive ship explode and crash in the sky. And then they found that actually when people played it, the majority of players weren't really looking in that direction.
Yeah.
Like, most people just didn't notice, and they were like, part of them was like, why didn't you look at the thing we did? But I think it's kind of amazing that was the way it was, and I think now there's a tendency of being like, and I guess it comes back to the same problem I kind of have with Dying Light. It's just like, why is there so much story here? And it feels because they feel they need to give you enough content.
Yeah.
And it's like...
But also, it feels more professional. It feels more sumptuous as well. Like, have you ever done the fucking Harry Potter tour? The Harry Potter studio tour?
I can't say I have.
It's amazing. But
I think we'll do that in May, actually.
do it. It's so good, right? Even if you only have a passing interest in Harry Potter, it's interesting as fuck.
Yeah.
But like, there's those events. It's like they have this big chair. And like the tour guide is like, oh, this chair took this amount of time to make, and it's like it took this amount of people. I was like, that's more people than I work with. And they were like, do you want to see how long it's in the film for? And it's like, yeah, all right. Yeah. It's just like she presses play on a little thing, and it's fucking Dumbledore in front of a chair for about 3 seconds. She was like, that's the only time it's in any of the Harry Potter films ever.
Yeah, but
and it's just like,
that to me feels different, because that feels to me more endemic of the fact that the Hollywood industry has become an industry which is pretty much solely running now to prop up lots of post-production, lots of CGI companies. It's like, can we put more CGI? Let's just keep doing it. Like,
That's the thing.
Actually, that's really
People talk about the magic of Hollywood, and the magic of Hollywood is fucking leathering loads of time and manpower into
making
things that don't matter.
Well, it's just like they said as well. Like, when you go on this thing and say, every single box in Ollivander's like one shop. Every single one of those boxes
Lost me.
So the one shop where you go to get your wand, the wand picks you. Every single one of those boxes has a wand in it, but you see about 8 wands, and there's fucking thousands of boxes of wands. That's insane.
That's just very. That's bad.
It's like,
that's
no wonder people are doing CGI stuff.
Yeah, like that's like, I'm sorry, but that's bad. That's like, whoever did that, I'd have to have a word with them. But can you imagine that? Can you imagine if you come over and said, how's it going? Yeah, sorry, boss, bit behind schedule, but check this out. You know this scene? Yeah, every single one of these boxes has a wand rendered inside of it, and you're like, but they're not going to be open. Yeah, I know, but it's cool, isn't it? It's
in fairness, I'd like to think your boss was on top of that situation.
Yeah,
It was just like, what are you up to? Are you making wands for those boxes? I thought I was meant to be making wands for those boxes.
Kevin, can I have a look at your timesheet, please? How long have you spent 4 days making these wands?
Kev, you're meant to be making tea.
Oh, I don't know. But yeah.
I get your point though, where you it's about people think they're going to make loads of content that's not going to be seen by people.
Yeah,
but
I think it's weird. I don't know what this is going to do, but because obviously there's only the first episode.
So right, you've got this supernatural thing. You can turn back time, but it's just like.
But it's not a thing in the game. It's not like she's.
Oh no, it is a thing in the game. Yeah, it is part of the plot.
Okay,
but it's not the driving mystery as far as I can. I mean, it might well become that, but it's not the. She discovers she has this power early on in the episode.
Yeah.
And there's a situation where she can basically save a life, or and that's where the game teaches you how to use the power. And that's what kicks off the actual kind of plot.
Is that the bird thing?
Really, you up?
Is that the bird?
No, that's
thing?
just a side thing that happens.
Because I hated that.
But you can. So what I liked about it is that it's not like a Telltale game where this is a fucking decision and you have to make the decision and you make your call and then you have to live with it. That's really cool, but I like that this is different in that you're not so much kind of making calls and making those split-second decisions that have ramifications. You're sort of like trying to mold the timeline in to get the best possible result for everyone. So. And even though you're obviously going to fail, obviously things are going to fuck up, you kind of feel like, well, I've got a million chances here to put it right, and you still won't, obviously. Yeah. That's obviously where they're going with it. But I just like that idea that it's not about the split-second decision-making. It makes you agonize over it because the game is designed to give you an out. You make what looks like a bad call, but you can go and change it. But that also, I like that.
You're still second guessing that second decision.
Exactly, yeah. In a way, it's not obviously it's not more tense than Walking Dead or anything like that, but it makes you more anxious about what you're doing.
I think maybe
there's more thinking time. You got too much time.
But it's interesting that you don't seem clear on where it's going or what it's doing, because usually by the end of part 1 or something like that, you've got a pretty. I think that's something that Telltale have got increasingly good at doing. Actually, is using the first episode as exposition. So you feel like this has been an interesting, cool instruction, but you kind of know where it's going.
The other part of the thing is that her time travel power also keeps like giving her flashbacks into the future. So it
future backs.
Yeah. So that didn't make any sense. Sorry, but it gives you it basically. Something apocalyptic is going to happen, and you get the impression that this is about you either preventing it or
causing it.
Or causing it.
I reckon you're
going
to cause it. That's just my...
But, so there is an end point, and there, you do see where all this is going, and then, there's obviously a journey there, and there's forks in the road along the way. I like it. As a first episode, it sets up a lot of stuff. And it's just a really interesting take on that episodic choice-based adventure game that I don't think we've really seen. Like Dreamfall chapters. Yeah, like all the Telltale games since Walking Dead have been very similar, right? I mean, they've been... as much as I've liked them, they've basically been the same thing. Mm-hmm. Dreamfall chapters felt... I love the Dreamfall series, but chapters felt like this was Ragnar Tornquist doing a Telltale with his baby. It was fine, I really enjoyed it, but it didn't really do...
That sounds like something you get in a Christmas cracker to do a charade. Got Ragnar... Is it Ragnar Tornquist doing a Telltale with his baby? Yes!
Like Cluedo.
Yeah. But fourth word.
But yeah, I don't think I'm explaining myself very well. But
no, you are. I'm on board.
It's a weird take on that kind of thing, which because of that supernatural time bending element, they actually do something quite different with it. It's not just about the agonizing choices. It is agonizing, but it's not about the split.
I get what you mean.
It's about the you are shaping a world essentially. And
that sounds interesting. I guess something riffing off what Gav said earlier. My worry with that
you're not Louis C.K., Matt.
I am Louis C.K. That's the weirdest thing about this. Just what you were saying, like about how in a lot of Telltale games, it's about how you feel, like not the characters exactly. I kind of feel like this is going to be a bit more dependent. It sounds like a bit more dependent on you continuing to really engage with the characters. Because what I really like about the Walking Dead series and a lot of their games, especially the Walking Dead one though, really, is it's more that you, because of those snap decisions, you end up like learning about yourself, sometimes in a way that you don't want to.
Yeah.
You're just like, when you're forced to be like, make a decision, sometimes you make decisions that like about 2 seconds later you go, really? Did I? That was my gut instinct. Was like, kill him. And just being like, what are you doing? Don't kill him.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
I played Walking Dead season 1 with a girlfriend who didn't play games, and
she must have lost it.
She was really into it. She loved it, but she was like, what are you like? What? And I was like, you can tell me what to do. And like before she would tell me what to do, I'd fucking press a button. She was like, why are you being such a prick? And I was like, I have to be. I was like, I don't know. I was like, maybe you should control her. We'll hash out the discussion about who should die.
Yeah, I tried to do that with Game of Thrones with my girlfriend, but it was that thing of like I was like, she always made her decision like slightly too late. It kept being the character saying nothing because I was like, she'd be like, oh, that one, and I'd just go to press it.
That's a really horrible mechanic actually in the Telltale games where it's just like nothing. It should be like that bit should be like fuck off you cunt every single time.
It's fine,
like, otherwise it's gonna say fuck off you cunt.
Yeah, it does kind of make sense not saying stuff. I like that. But
you should have the option of changing it, not that was the default though.
So Life is Strange, finally I'd say like is it because you started off by saying about like Garden State stuff. Is it like a bit like twee? Is it so twee that it's like
It's not so twee that it's not enjoyable though, I don't think.
No. It wears its influences on its sleeve very much.
Yeah.
And that's the bit I don't like. As well as being like evocative of Garden State and all that kind of shit. But it does get away from that, though. With the
Quite
the
quickly,
sort
yeah.
of apocalyptic
Yeah.
time traveling. Oh
wasn't-
fuck! There's a thing coming, and
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of that in Garden State or any of
No.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of tone. It's one of these things that it's got shoehorned in pop culture references,
Yeah.
which it's just been pissing people off.
Some people love that, but I don't.
Some people love that, but those are the people who are still watching Kevin Smith movies and thinking
Yeah.
he's talented and he's shit. And he's always been shit.
People who think Family Guy is still really funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's
you forget they exist.
Yeah, and it's 13 seasons in now. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's stuff like that, and it's obviously got this kind of Twin Peaks vibe to it. Part of the story is that there's a girl that's gone missing, and that's obviously leading into it. And when you find this out, and you're talking to the sort of character that's involved with the search for this girl and whatever, she's driving a truck, and you go into the house, and at the end of the cutscene, the fucking number plate reads Twin Peaks, and you're like, you didn't have to do that. This was all implicit. The influences are there. They're really, really obvious. You didn't have to write the words fucking Twin Peaks in the frame. I get it. I'm not an idiot. So
That's awful. It's almost like someone coming up on screen going yeah.
I kind of found that a little bit with Remember Me in terms of it just being very almost turning towards the camera at times and being do you see
Winking,
do you see what we're doing?
Yeah.
The fact that all of the names were but I find that even with the Don't Nod, the fact is have you noticed how the name of our studio is the same backwards? You can turn it upside down, it's the same backwards. Don't Nod, it's the same letters. I'm just it's not very clever. That's clever when you're 14. That's not, I don't know. I'm not going to rag on them because I know people like those games. But what have you been playing, Gav?
Gunman Clive 2.
Hey, I heard Gunman Clive. The first one was really
Fucking incredible. It's really, really good.
So what, is Gunman Clive 2 out everywhere?
It is. I think it's out all the time. It costs about £2.50.
How long has it been out for? A long time?
No, a week, maybe
Oh,
something
right.
like that. It's only just come out.
what is Gunman Clive? I've never heard of this.
It's like a sort of side-scrolling, I guess, sort of action platformer where
Quite cartoony, but also
very
monochromatic.
cartoony,
The
yeah.
first one was monochromatic.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was just
that was the thing in the second one is more colours, and there's about 4 more colours.
Wow.
But it's just brilliant, and it's just they focus their energy on making this really, really good, just hard, really fucking hard sort of I guess it's sort of like a shooter, but it's side-scrolling for some of it.
I guess it's a bit Mega Man-y, right? But not as...
Kind of, I guess, but not as annoying.
No.
And it's got really, really good, I don't know, personality to the game. You watch it and there's little ripples around your character. So your character's one colour, the background is another. Your character sort of fuses into him a little bit. It's just a really, really sweet game, and it's really, really nice to play. It looks great on 3DS as well.
I was going to say, because the first Gunman Clive, it came out on the 3DS. It was one of the kind of indie-ish titles you could just buy.
Yeah.
But then it probably didn't sell that well on the 3DS because at that point 3DS wasn't really doing that well.
Yeah.
But then it came out on the iPad and stuff as
Okay,
well.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
Android as a kind of phone
Yeah.
game. That's cool. I'm glad they made another one because I still haven't played it, but I've heard really, really good things about the first one.
Yeah, if you've got it, just go buy it. It's £2.50. What's the worst that's going to happen for £2.50? And I think a lot of the time, when I worked on Official Nintendo Magazine, a lot of the time that when they would release a game, that'd be really good, and you'd be like, how much is it? $8.99. Oh, for fuck's sake! No one's gonna buy your eShop game for $8.99 for about £2.50 or whatever it costs. Fucking just go buy it. What's gonna happen? And it's really, really fucking good.
You keep saying what's going to happen. It's like a tempting fate here.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to have a grand piano drop
Look,
on
if
them.
you don't like it, tweet me or whatever. I'll give you the money back. Fuck it.
Gav promise.
You know when you say stuff what's the worst that can happen for £2.50?
Yeah.
I work in Croydon, and there's a lot of street food in Croydon.
But it's a really, really good game. It's really, really fun. I've ploughed. I had that almost a week after I got Majora's Mask, and I've played more Gunman Clive than I have Majora's Mask.
Imagine.
Yeah. I know that's really horrible.
Yeah, I didn't even realise Majora's Mask was out so soon.
I don't think it's out yet. I think it's out in it's out. It might be out on February. It might be out on Friday 13th. I think.
Just
it's out,
tell
yeah.
Zelda fans that Majora's Mask can fuck off, mate. You seen this Gunman Clive?
I often find
Not even Gunman Clive, Gunman Clive 2. I said that a couple of times in the office. I was like,
Cliver.
yeah, like what are you? I think I talked about it like on the IGN podcast. They were just like, "What are you playing at the moment?" I was like, "Gunman Clive 2." And they were like, "What the fuck is Gunman Clive 1?" It's like, well, yeah, Gunman Clive 2 is better than Majora's Mask.
That's a box quote who I heard one.
It's never going to be on a box.
And that's the point when you realise that actually, like, the kind of, because when you start getting into working in games, it was actually a real thrill to get your hands on like stuff early or like before it came out.
Yeah.
But then like I increasingly started to find that I'd get home and I'd be like, oh, I've got this brand new game for the Xbox 360. It's not out for a week. But then I'd be like,
Gunman Clive's
actually,
out.
I want to play something like Gunman Clive. I'd be like, well, and you'd have something on your shelf which was like you just wouldn't touch because you're like, oh, I'm addicted to playing like Minor Dig Deep on Xbox Live Arcade indie games instead. Like,
in fairness, like I should say, Majora's Mask is still fucking really good, and you play it.
It's no Gunman Clive 2, Gav.
There's no Gunman Clive 2.
Let's not beat around the bush here.
But it is really, really good. And like, if you're gonna buy 2 3DS games, buy Majora's Mask and Gunman Clive.
I'd say personally,
if you're gonna buy one, buy Gunman Clive.
There's a bit of a gulf in price though there. Isn't there?
Yeah, definitely.
That's the thing. Actually, I've got to say, I bought a game this week, which I bought for a downloadable game as well for the PS Vita. Wasn't £2.50. It was much, much more expensive. I don't regret it so far. I'll see how we get on with that.
What was it?
It was Danganronpa. I knew I was going to say it wrong. Danganronpa, I think. It's a hard name to remember because it's all one word.
What?
Danganronpa. Danganronpa. Danganronpa?
Danganronpa.
Danganronpa. just gonna quickly just double.
Elite Danganronpa.
Danganronpa.
Okay.
Danganronpa.
Let's go click on images. Let's have a look what it looks like.
All right, cool. Well, it's called Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc.
Yo, this happens everywhere. This was getting reviewed at Video Gamer, and
fuck that.
like for in like 5 minutes of every day that week, there would be portions of time in the office where people would just be saying Danganronpa at each other, like
What is
in
that?
exactly the same way you were doing there.
Nah.
Danganronpa.
I'm not up for this, mate.
Oh,
Danganronpa.
Guy Woodward's been playing this.
Yes.
He keeps tweeting pictures from it.
He may have been playing the second one, but this is a guy called Monokuma, right?
Well, I've been playing Gunman Clive 2, which is also a sequel.
We've been through that. But no, I've been playing the first one, and it came out...
What is it?
It's not a new game. It came out about 2010, right? But it's one of these games where I was looking for something me to play on the PS Vita.
Yeah.
I finished the... What's it called? I want to say Moon, but it's not Moon.
Swapper?
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Got a lot in common. Swapper's brilliant. I got to the end of it. I thought the story was awesome, really well contained, just smart enough to tick on my brain and make me think, oh, that's clever.
The same guy did Talos Principle.
Yeah, and yet Talos Principle did nothing for me, which was
really?
Yeah. I didn't think my problem with Talos Principle was I felt that the story it was trying to tell and the game
didn't match together.
Didn't really gel. It was just like I understood why, because the idea was you were supposed to feel like you were in a weird computer civilization that was simulation, which was a bit disconnected. But it felt to me like you do a puzzle and then you get a bit more story every now and then. Yeah. Whereas I love the way the Swapper, like, even when I was doing like the puzzles in the Swapper, for those who don't know, you're a man with a magic torch who swaps between clones of yourself. Yeah. And I love it for various reasons. First of all, the way the puzzles work, it doesn't add new shit all the time. It doesn't do that puzzle game thing of going, oh no, you can do this, which Talos Principle does a lot. It's always adding new ideas. Yeah. It has a very simple system that it doesn't really need to change much throughout the game. Only lasts for about 4 or 5 hours, but the puzzles, some of the puzzles are really hard. Like I got stuck on them for a long time, but in a good way. And it's always a case of you not working it out. It's never a case of, oh, maybe I'm missing something.
The game is shit or something like that.
Yeah, it's like you just haven't quite got your head in the right way. And because there's only such a simple set of rules of how the puzzles work, often it is that thing of you just going through each process being like, is it this? No, is it this? Should I be doing this? Until eventually you crack it.
And a lot of the time it's in one room as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, that was the thing that was fucking spinning me out about the Swapper. I was like, there's nothing that you don't know. It's all in this room. Like
you've been staring at the same thing for half an hour, just being like,
it's like episode 2 of Jonathan Creek when they're in the garage. Like everything happened in this room.
You get to the point where you're like, there must be something else.
Yeah.
I remember early on when I got to the first puzzle where I was stuck, I was like, no, I must need something else to do this. And it's being like, nah, not one of those games. You just haven't got it.
Yeah, this is bullshit.
But I love the way that, because of the way it works, and a lot of the time the way it works is you have to swap to another character, and then the other character you were just in falls and crunches to their death. And I liked the way that the whole thing was about clones and consciousness and swapping consciousness between clones.
It's like the Prestige.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, again, like when we talked about Swapper last week, Steve made the exact same spoiler.
Right.
You guys.
If you haven't seen the Prestige by now, you fucking should have.
Yeah, thanks, Gav.
Unfortunately.
You should have, though. If you've been listening to my work for a while, I've recommended it many, many times.
Also, if you haven't watched it in that week, when these podcasts come
no,
out.
because we didn't even mention it, the film name.
Oh, really?
Last week, Steve dropped. Anyway.
That's the end.
That's great. Cool. Anyway, I just like the way it got me thinking about it the whole time. It was the way that it merged the world and the story was just, I thought, really, really nice done. But anyway, I finished that and I was like, I fancy something meatier. And I know that the PS Vita is really good for Japanese RPG stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't fancy Persona 4 straight away. And that's good because they've just announced Persona 5. So I might hold off for that. But I thought I'd check this out because a lot of people have said, play Danganronpa. I got it right that time. And I've been playing it. It's fucking weird. You might not like the sound of it, right? But you might not like the look of it, sorry, but you'll like the sound of it, right?
Okay.
Basically, you go to this school and it's like a kind of it's almost like a visual novel in the fact that really there's only a little bit of interaction. A lot of it is just talking to characters and stuff.
Okay.
You go to this school and then when you get to the school, it's supposed to be a school for fantastic students and all that. You get there.
It's a school for cunts.
It's a school. Everyone there is really good at something. Everyone there is like very skilled.
Yeah.
But you're locked in a school, and you've got this mad bear who's this white and black half and half bear who's like this weird cutesy character who basically tells you that the only way you can leave the school is by murdering somebody. And basically the game revolves around this thing of like somebody gets murdered. And then you have to go and talk to people and you have to go around and find all the evidence. And it becomes basically a bit like a Phoenix Wright thing.
Okay.
But when you have the trials, it's a very different pacing. But basically, somebody gets
trials
murdered.
in it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Somebody gets murdered, basically. And the only way you can graduate from the school is you have to murder someone and get away with it. And so it means somebody gets murdered and then you have to go around and find all the evidence. And then you have this like trial where everyone's sitting around talking to each other. And then you have to like basically work out who did it and prove that they did it. And it's that thing of like, if the person can get away with it without anyone working out it was them, then they get to leave and everyone else dies. Whereas if they get caught, then they get executed. And it's when people die,
sounds cool.
When people get like murdered and when people get executed, it's really brutal. It's like not nice in terms of it's not hugely gory, but it's some of the like ways that people die. It's like, oh, that's like, this is rough. Yeah. And it creates this weird thing of being like, you kind of spend all your time in between just going and talking to the characters and getting to know them.
Yeah.
And there's this weird morbid thing about being like, oh, who's going to get killed next? But weirdly, you kind of look forward to it because you want to like see the next murder. But it does this like the Phoenix Wright style thing, but instead of it being like going through carefully with loads of evidence, it does this mad thing. We have the courtroom is this all 12 of the students and it just spins around whilst playing this mad techno music going and it's like each person says the lines and then every now and then it will pop up with like a line that you can like something they've said that's like you could maybe think, oh no, there's a contradiction there or something. And then you've got like
shoots off.
You've got to aim it and you've got to tap on it to shoot a truth bullet at it and it fires this bullet.
Dropping truth bombs.
Smashes their words and then you'd be like, no, but instead of like having the kind of really slow pacing of Phoenix Wright cases where it's like you just mull over for ages. In this, it's like on each section of the like bit with all the characters saying about what happened, it has like a 5-minute timer or whatever, and you can just listen to it as many times as you want before choosing which bit to shoot. But then you can like hold down a button so they'll speak like chipmunks. It's like, and then like have to just be like work out which bit of evidence to fire as a truth bullet.
Yeah,
it's like it's really like it's properly Japanese. But I really like it.
It's proper Japanese blood.
It's like it's just, when it started doing this sort of like this bit in the case where it's like, boom, this you prove this, and then it's like, you know, basically doing your like, equivalent of objection and proving something, and then it starts spinning around and playing the techno music again. It's just this like what is this? Because it doesn't tell you that any of this stuff is coming until you get to the first trial. It's all just like, hey, talk to people around the school, make some friends, get to know people, and then it's like somebody's dead.
It sounds good. How much is it? Because you said it's not Gunman Clive 2 money.
No, it's more than Gunman. I bought it for 35 quid.
What?
Yeah, I know. Well, it's a game. It's a full price game.
That's mad.
Well, I'm enjoying it, to be honest. But I looked
£35.
Well, I looked online for like physical copies, and it was like only 32 quid. So I didn't mind paying a few more quid just to get it now. It's a niche interest game. That's the thing is, I'm not going to say.
I really want to play it. but I'm poor.
Well, surely you can expense it or something.
Yeah, I really don't think that. Yeah, guys, wicked game. I'm going to do this
Came
video
out
about it.
5 years ago. Look, Gav, you get paid a
I've
salary.
heard about it on this amazing podcast called Daft. So I was like, Gav, you were on that podcast. We fucking listened to it. You're not getting money to pay it.
No, you can't.
Okay.
But I don't know. The one thing actually that I will say about it is it's very clever with stereotypes. And I when I first started playing it, I thought, oh God, this is bad. Because there's just like...
There's so many Asian people and you hate Asians.
I just hate them, Gav. Asians,
You're scum.
Asians,
That's disgusting, Matt.
Asians and widows. Can't stand it. No, it's just a bit, senpai, it's like, it's a bit, kind of does that thing of there's like a few too many characters that are just like, and basically, I don't really want to spoil anything, but there's a relationship you have, like, not really a relationship, but one of the pretty girls who's like she's like, I'm your sidekick, and it's all like a bit too chummy and a bit too like, oh God, really? Is this gonna do this? You're gonna do this? It just feels to me a bit tired and trite cliche of being like, hey, having like the kind of shy girl who's really popular. No, she's not even shy. She's like really popular, but then she's like, oh, actually, I like you and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, why does the really popular girl like me? And it's just like, kind of thing like, am I playing a hentai game? Is this a hentai game? But the way the characterization takes, there's lots of twists and turns in it that quite early on I was like, oh shit, this is a game that knows its cliches and is actually subverting lots of stuff. In the same way that lots of other Japanese games I find, you kind of think like, are you going to subvert? Like, are you subverting this or not? Like, I remember with Bravely Default, it did that really weird thing of having this fashion show, and I thought, it's basically, it was being quite subversive already, and being like, all these girls
Quite knowing,
being obsessed with beauty and being like, well, they've all been possessed by demons, and that was like, oh, that's interesting, the way they basically made it look like the fashion industry is like, this weird, evil obsession. But then you have a fashion show where your characters all dress up in little bikinis. I've just remembered somebody used to be a fan of mine, used to love this podcast, made a massive video about angry because I'd stood up against the fact that I thought it was a bit weird that all the characters in Bravely Default looked like toddlers in sexy outfits. Who would stand up against that state? I don't know. Anyway, I just realised like...
Yeah, let's not watch that guy's channel.
It just blows my mind that people were like, oh, I can't believe you had a go at all these like toddler characters
so
looking sexy. Like, it's like, that's weird, guys.
Yeah, that's someone
like,
who's had a wank over all those people.
Yeah, I suppose you can't take back a wank, is what they say. Gav, you look like you've just... That's not...
No, I agreed. That was an agreeing noise.
I thought you were going to reveal some secret here. Actually, there is a way. You must climb this mountain.
My parole officer says I'm not allowed to reveal secrets on podcasts anymore.
Anyway, Danganronpa is, the thing is, there's a second one, and the second one... I reckon the second one will probably have spoilers about the first one, because I don't know. It's this nice thing of like, it feels a bit like old boyish, and the fact that you're like trying to work out why you've been locked in this school and forced to kill each other and stuff.
Well, it's £35, so I'm never going to fucking play it.
Gunman Clive to cheapskate Gav with his, can I buy with this? Looks a leaf through the coins in your hands. Yes, you can, Gav. Yeah. Well done. Oh, you've got enough money for a wham bar as well.
Good.
Sorry, I'm still sort of internally laughing because you made like taking back a wank sound like doing the vampirism cure quest in Skyrim.
It's probably similar. I think it's,
Question time.
First up, a question from Andy Parsons, who says, anything good I should be checking out for the iPhone? Not iPad, fair enough. Apart from Dreeps, of course. #Dreeps.
Literally nothing except for Dreeps.
Right, Dreeps, right? Dreeps can fuck off.
What?
Right? It's very, very nice. Very nice. But like, you and Quins were like, Dreeps. And I checked it out. I checked out Dreeps. You know about Dreeps?
No.
It's
You fucking hate it.
I don't know anything.
Dreeps is, my favourite thing about Dreeps is the name. I love the name Dreeps. It's a little like sentient RPG thing that just happens in the background. And you've got a little man or a boy or maybe a little girl, I don't know.
It's an animated screensaver, basically.
Basically an animated screensaver. But the thing is, with animated screensaver, right, is, and I was saying to Quins about this, I was like, well, look, I've had it for like ages, and I always do a thing at night where I set my alarm on it, and then you wake him up in the morning, he's got full health, and he goes on his adventures.
Yeah.
But I've never, I know that events happen, and you actually have events that can happen, that can unlock new things. I've never seen an event, and I've been playing it for weeks, and everyone says, oh yeah, just put it on your desk, and just watch it. It's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not. If I put that on my desk, I'm not going to get any bloody work done because I'm going to be looking at a little boy.
If you put it under, If you put
No.
some people get a lot of work done
No.
with looking little voice.
No.
So, but you could put on a little like I
Well,
do that all
no,
the
the thing is,
time.
maybe it's because I haven't got an iPhone. I've got an iPad, and so like you
That's
could.
massive.
I know that's the thing. That's the thing.
That's like a quarter of your screen.
I know that's what I mean. It's like I'm not going to stand up if I stand up an iPad like in front of
Yeah.
me. It's just going to be like I'm going to be looking at it all the time.
Essentially, what you do is you set an alarm. When the alarm, when you go to sleep, the little kid goes to sleep. When you wake up, when your alarm goes off and you need to wake up, then he wakes up. He's full of energy. He goes on his little quest and he goes around. He's like basically just walking for ages.
It's very nice.
It's lovely.
But I just get really annoyed because I mean,
and he runs into fights. Then and he fights monsters and he levels up. And he gets better. He dies sometimes, and then he just sort of goes on the one knee for a bit. But the music is amazing, and it looks fucking awesome. So basically, the idea is that it's an RPG for people who don't have time to play RPGs.
Right,
So they
okay.
can put it off to one side and just look at it, and
It just plays itself.
And just plays itself, basically. Yeah. But yeah, it's. I mean, it's.
I do
It's
like
£2.29, which is
it's a lot of money.
almost as much as Gunman Clive 2.
I know, right? I mean, if you had to choose,
Gunman Clive 2, obviously. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Other than that, no.
Other than that, nothing.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to play
It's
that.
kind of, well, if you've got an iPhone, yeah, but if you've got an iPad,
yeah.
don't. Cause
I think the only,
very
the
old
only
iPhones.
I think the only thing about it is when you're watching it, you go, "Fuck me! I wish this was an actual game," because some of the monster design is amazing, and when you see him fighting a monster, you're like, "Oh, that looks so good! That looks a lot better than monsters I've actually fought in actual games."
Has anyone got any iPhone game recommendations? I've already kind of recommended
No.
80 Days a lot, and I recommend that again because 80 Days is just so good. It doesn't look like it's going to be good at all. But
Oh, add one then. No.
no, it's coming to me. It's coming. No, it's gone.
I mean, it's not even a game, but Marvel Unlimited, which is basically like Netflix but for Marvel Comics.
Great, thanks,
Yeah.
Gav.
It's fucking amazing.
Bridge Constructor. There we go.
Bridge
Been
Constructor.
playing a lot
Done.
of that. It's fucking great.
Fantastic.
Good.
Tom Bickmore asks, did you always want to be journalists? What did you want to be as a kid?
Fucking Bickmore. I love Bickmore.
He's a good lad. I've met him a few times.
Yeah, he is.
I don't know. I never really wanted to be anything. I wanted to be a pirate, I think, because I like the Princess Bride.
I wanted to be a.
Obviously, I was aware you couldn't do
I wanted
that.
to be a pirate, so I spent my days copying tapes. This was like the 80s, right?
I actually wanted to
Yeah.
be. I wanted to be a long haul truck driver. That was like my actual.
That fucking suits you so much. You have no idea.
You actually look like a long haul truck driver.
that's
but a
exactly
really
what I
cool
wanna
one.
do.
You
You
look like
look
a
like-
really cool one, like the sort of one that you turn up at a depot and everyone like, oh,
Yeah.
Gav's here. And you'd be like, all right, boys.
From the age of like 5 until I went to like big school, that's all I did was just draw trucks. I was obsessed with trucks, and then when I got to like big school, they were just like, no, like you should just do something else, maybe. And I always wanted to do that. That was always the thing that I wanted to do. It never occurred to me to be. I mean, to be honest, I don't really consider myself a journalist because
No.
I think anyone who's a journalist
No
would
one
look
really
at,
considers you a journalist.
yeah. I think anyone who is a journalist would look at the stuff about you and go, like, mate, you're not a journalist. But like,
No, I mean, I feel
Yeah.
the same, to be honest. I don't feel like
think
I'm a journalist anymore.
Fuck that.
Um,
yeah.
I mean, I never really felt. There were times where I felt like a journalist when I was at OXM because often when you'd be interviewing people, you would just go off with a dictaphone. You sit down with somebody who was like. There were times, like
Yeah.
occasions, where you sort of think, this is a bit like being a journalist, isn't it? When you're sitting down with somebody quite senior at EA, asking them pointed questions about
Yeah, and
their business.
you're literally after like news from them.
Yeah,
Like,
and looking
I
for
can
news
understand
about
that,
their business. But then it's been such a long time since I've done anything like that
Yeah.
now. I'm more of a just stupid prick who occasionally starts going, I've got some quite interesting thoughts about this game design.
Yeah.
Mostly I'm just a stupid prick.
Your story's better though, because I think your story's pretty cool. But like you guys were literally just like, we're going to review games and stuff like that. You're like, you're one of the only people that I know that was actually doing your job for no pay, basically.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, well, I never wanted to be a journalist or anything. I never really thought of it like that.
Yeah.
But I knew, and we, if anyone knows about Game Wank or whatever, like me and Richie started doing Game Wank because we wanted something to fucking do. Because we both done, like we both studied, like audiovisual and
Yeah.
filmmaking and stuff like that. And we wanted to do something, but we always had like all these big projects that would never go anywhere because we're just two guys and we had full-time jobs. But we were just like, well, we can do a podcast and we can do little YouTube videos. And so it was like, oh, what do we like? We like video games. So it was never like, there wasn't a decision where it's like, well, we're gonna become games media people, or we're gonna be. It was just sort of this organic thing that this is what we can do with the time we have and the resources we have. So let's do it.
Yeah.
And then that kind of, it got a bit of traction because it had wank in the title, and and
I found it by different means than what I was meant to, and I was into that game and stuff. So
I mean, eventually I got hired for being a stupid dick as well. So
do you ever think like sometimes? Because I mean, you get quite a lot of free reign at a video gamer, but do you ever sort of miss the game like it? You could literally just go out and do whatever the fuck you wanted.
No, because I can pretty much do what the fuck I want.
That's awesome then, yeah.
So it's the perfect place for me, really.
I actually saw someone someone on Twitter recently bitching, and it was like, I guess they're quite a small outfit. They had like a small website and a small podcast, and they were bitching that they hadn't been invited to like a PR event. And I was like, if you're not being invited to a PR event, you're probably doing the fucking right thing. Like, go off and do whatever the fuck you want. Like, who cares? Like,
because I mean, I never. Are you talking about the Witcher thing?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
I saw a lot of that, and it was like there was a bit of a. Not naming names or anything, and I totally understand.
No, of course, yeah.
Totally understand where they were coming from, but they had this Witcher 3 press event in Stirling Castle.
Yeah,
Brat went to it actually. I made him go because
R.I.P.
Like, he's not going to go to Scotland.
I miss him so much. I wish he wasn't dead.
We should just start pretending he's dead. But, after the final Dad video went up, we got a tweet saying, "I want to buy that bus a pint."
Brutal. I got to say that video really caught me off guard, made me laugh a lot.
So they had this in Scotland, and then the Scottish Games Press, in quotes, started complaining that they hadn't been invited to it
because it was local.
Because it was local, but it was like, but it's all these journalists from London that have been invited. Why aren't you inviting local outlets? And it's like the bitter hard truth. And I say this as somebody who used to do Game Wank and is now in an outlet that's not exactly huge or anything, but we. The PRs are inviting people for the numbers. That's why, they had people from newspapers there. They had people from big sites there. Like, the simple, bitter hard truth is, none of you guys up there were big enough to warrant the invite.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm not saying that to be disparaging.
No, not at all.
But it was just this weird, because there's like a big Facebook group and stuff where they were all moaning about it. And it's like, I'm probably going to get a lot of trouble for this. but
I understand both sides.
There was this elephant in the room, and it was like nobody was really acknowledging the fact that it's like, but guys, it's because they wouldn't have got the traffic that they wanted.
I mean,
you fucking hire Stirling Castle. You want to get some good payback from that, right?
ROI, I think it's that.
I think that was the thing that when I saw that, I just thought there was all these awesome outlets. So that sometimes I work for IGN, and sometimes you look at these little outlets, not little outlets because they're amazing, but you look at people and you go, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Why do you crave to be part of something and it's not even little, because I speak to I had beers with Ali A before, who's one of the biggest YouTubers, and he was like, oh, can I come in and do something on IGN? Can I come in and do it? And it's like, you're way bigger than we'll ever be. But they sort of think that that's where you sort of need to be, and I don't think that's right.
It's a number of people I have who send me links being like, hey, Matt, I want to be a games writer. Can you read this? And they've just written a review or a preview or something. It's like, why are you doing this?
Everyone's
always trying to emulate the way that the big sites work, and it's like, nah, just do what you want.
The video of you and Richie, I think is amazing, is the two of you almost Waiting for Godot style, sitting on the beach playing chess. I remember watching years ago, and I just think that's fucking brilliant. Because if you haven't seen it, you can probably just find it by typing in the word that I've just said. But if you're a blog, or if you're something like that, if you're not beholden to any company, why you want to be part of that entire preview culture where you go along to an event, you play a game for 2 hours, then you write some preview on it. The embargo is this day, it goes out this day. what the fuck is
And you know
the
what?
point
I've
of
got to
doing
say,
it?
I've got to say something really important is if you're young and you want to do this sort of thing, just do it now.
Yeah.
Because when you're young and you have that thing of being like, you're in your first job or whatever, it doesn't matter that much, or, you haven't got a job yet and you've got other mates in similar positions, you can just be like, let's do this. And you can make these really elaborate things. Like, they'll be rubbish because you won't be experienced, you won't have the skills yet, but you'll do things and be able to arrange things that now are impossible. And I think that the hardest thing for me is I didn't do enough of that stuff when I was younger, and now you look at YouTubers who all got their YouTube buddies and they can do all this mad stuff, and I'm just a guy who's 30 in a couple of weeks sitting in his bedroom, and I've got loads of amazing ideas that involve loads of other people, right? And I know the people I'd like to do it with, and I've got lots of people who I know are really talented who'd love to join me and make these things. But everyone's got jobs, everyone's got lives, and suddenly it's this thing of like trying to organise these things is really difficult.
In their 30s.
So I think if you've got some mad ideas and you've got some mad friends, just start doing it, because it gets
all
harder
go
and
with a video
harder.
game in fairness.
Well, pretty much, yeah. But if you're not like if you're not subject to that whole sort of PR thing of, as you say, like you have deadlines and embargoes and all that kind of stuff, which I've done a bit of at Video Gamer, but they usually don't let me anywhere near stuff that requires responsibility. Then if you're not part of that, then don't
Try to be
upset.
part of it,
Don't be
yeah.
upset that you haven't been invited into that. Like, it's not. That's where it becomes a job.
Yeah,
It's
true. I mean, I don't get invited to anything either, and I know it's not that the PRs don't like me.
That's because you smell, though.
I've got a real problem. I mean, I've been seeing doctors. I've got some creams for it and stuff.
Plus, it is because the PRs don't like you.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the PRs don't like me because of the smell. It's pretty intense. But no, it's just like I know, I understand. It's like I'm not like I don't get numbers big enough. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
I mean, yeah, and it's not, as I say, it's not being disparaging about anyone. It's just
No,
a
not at
simple
all.
fact of business.
I guess the interesting thing, though, actually, that people, say, oh, how did you get into? Did you want to get into this? I think an interesting thing is that lots of the people who end up, not everyone, but lots of the people, most of the people who end up doing it professionally, never really got into it because they wanted to get invited to the events and get the free games.
Yeah.
And there's lots of people who try and get into it because they want to get invited to the parties and they want the free games. Everyone else tends to do it for different reasons. And you get exceptions of people who love the free stuff. But mostly, I mean, I think I started doing it just because I mainly started writing because I like making people laugh. And I just like knowing that I'd written something that people thought was funny.
Yeah.
And for me, it was always just about the writing. And then it ended up being like, oh, I know about video games, I can write about them. But I think if you end up going into it and you find yourself getting annoyed that you're not invited to a party, it's like, nah, you're not going to...
See, I go into it for free booze and free booze only. That's the reason I'm doing this, because you buy me 2 beers when I come over.
That's true. Yeah. You're a cheap date. Anyway, that was a long inside shop sort of question.
Yeah, totally.
But we'll jump on.
But just lastly to say, I mean, I got into it because I could be paid to wear a dressing gown in the office. And that's a situation I engineered, and I'm fucking proud of it.
You should be. You're quite right, you should be. Tom Doughty asks, have you guys seen the new Persona 5 trailer? Have you any thoughts on the series as a whole? I saw it and I'm pretty excited by it.
Yeah.
I'm
I
actually
know nothing about Persona.
Yeah, that's the thing. I saw the trailer, and it's one of those things that everyone who's played Persona 4 said, you've got a Vita and you haven't got a Persona 4, you need to fucking get on that.
I've heard 4 is the best one because it's kind of quite easy to complete in terms of like it doesn't waste your time, whereas Persona 3 everyone raved about, and that's the one I've played. I played Persona 3 on the PSP edition, which apparently isn't as good anyway. Ugh, idiot me. But it just goes on for fucking ever, and it's like I just lost interest in it. But I loved it up to a point. But apparently 4 is less demanding of you time-wise, and also less challenging, and just allows you to enjoy the story. The story is always very similar. It's this idea of like these kids who go to a school, and then at night weird shit happens, and there's usually a tower that appears, and then you have to climb the tower, and the tower is basically a dungeon. But the way it works is you go up the tower and you get better and better, but then you might get stuck and you're like, oh, I can't do it, and then you give up or you die or whatever. Well, not die, but you give up, and then you go back to the real world. And in the real world, in the day, you're at school and you spend your time at school choosing what to do. And really the game, outside of the JRPG combat, is a life simulator of being like, in the school term, what do you want to do? Do you want to be really popular? Do you want to get a girlfriend? Or do you want to get like really good at some of your classes? Or do you want to like be really good at sport? Do you want to just like not spend your time doing your homework and spend loads of time like just training all the time. And then the thing is, whatever you choose to do, there's no wrong answers. If you spend more time training or you join the karate club or whatever, then there'll be a character in there that you'll make friends with.
Okay.
Right? And you'll befriend.
And you can come with you in the night.
Well, that's the thing. Is basically each of the students has a kind of. It's a bit like that thing in the Northern Lights trilogy of like this. They have like everyone has like a big crazy demon thing, which is like a thing you can use.
Yeah.
And you basically unlock new ones. And I think this is right anyway. Like, by strengthening your friendships with characters, you unlock more powerful like things in the game. It's kind of this weird thing. All the characters has this very stylish thing of like all the characters have these little like gun-like things that they point to their head. And then it goes, and the monsters come out of their heads. And it's just a cool idea of being like you kind of have these relationships with the characters in the daytime, and then the strength of your friendships makes your powers more deadly. But it sounds really twee when I say it like that. It sounds like it's like Care Bears.
I really want to play it. It's one of those things I've always wanted to play.
They're really good.
Like
they're really good.
I was a massive fan of like the Guyver anime series, and that was one of the things that really wound me up though when. He's like Sho Fukumaji is like this amazing, bio booster armor, like superhero guy, but he still goes to school every day. And it's like, mate, I got bigger things on. Like, I can't be going to school all the time.
Why would you bother at that stage? Like, seriously. But yeah, Persona's something that I've always wanted to get into. But it's filed in the same cabinet as Metal Gear Solid for me, where it's like, it's so far along now that to get up to speed would take me fucking years.
Each of the games are like separate.
So there's no like running.
I'm going to do it.
Is there any running
I think it's got the kind of like, I think it's got the Final Fantasy style thing of having like a Sid and a, like there's like, I think that there's certain elements which are always there. But
alright, so I'm not going to be fucked if I've not played.
I played 3 and none of the other ones, and it's a standalone story.
All right, okay. I think I might sort that out then.
They are a lot of fun. I mean, I found I got a bit bored of the combat after a while, but it's not a bad system. But I just remember like getting really stressed at one point because I realized I only had a week until the final exams, and it became quite evident that the girl who I was trying to get to be my girlfriend wouldn't go out with people who weren't smart or something, and it was like, if I don't do well in my exams, she's gonna think I'm an idiot. And then when you find yourself being like, and then the weird thing is it starts to overlap of being like, you have friends being like, hey, you gonna come out for dinner with me? And you're like, I can't, I've got to study. And they're like, okay. And then it's like, I've just spoiled my friendship. And if you keep saying no to people, if somebody's like, hey, do you want to do something tonight? And you keep saying no, after a while they just stop asking you, and it's like real life.
That is real life.
Yeah, it is real life. It's this thing of like, if you want to have a friendship with someone, you want to develop the friendship, you have to nurture it and you have to spend the time. But things come up, and they'll be like, something will go wrong, and like you've got to go to the tower and do some combat because there'll be a big story event's happened, and you're like, I was gonna do my homework tonight. I'd have time for this shit.
It's like an adolescent panic simulator.
Yeah, it is.
That's fair enough.
But with more enjoyable violence.
Stressed me out. That question stressed me out.
Well, it's good though. It's good. Alec Norton, this kind of follows on from something we talked about earlier, says, Life is Strange being technically sound. Have we been giving Telltale too much of a free pass?
No,
I don't think Life is Strange itself is like, because it's different technology, different people, different. I don't think you can sort of compare it directly one to the other, even though they do sort of on the face of it similar things. But I do think The Walking Dead bought Telltale a lot of goodwill that gives them a free pass for things that they really shouldn't be fucking up.
Yeah.
Like for example, like on a technical level, and I hate people reducing video games to fucking power tools, right? But when I got that one they did, The Wolf Among Us.
Fables one, yeah.
The Fables one, yeah. And I fucking love the Fables graphic novels. And so I got the season pass on PS4, and I thought, that'll do me, because I usually get them on PC because like the 360 versions were usually so terrible, and it's like it's not doing anything that should tax the fucking PS4, but it still runs so terribly, and you think
the engine is a little bit shit.
It's abysmal, and
actually, I only bought first episode of it, thankfully, but I started playing the Game of Thrones game on the iPad. I bought episode 1 for like £4.
Yeah.
And my iPad is not like old. I only bought it about 4 months ago, 5 months ago. It wasn't like the best one. It wasn't like the iPad Air because I'm not made of bloody money. But it was, I think, the iPad 4. And it just doesn't run on it. It like the dialogue stutters and repeats itself, and it's like this is a new bit of gear. Like I've seen that like run some quite impressive games. And it just doesn't run it. And it's like, how can you charge people for things that don't work?
Yeah, and even when you play like the PC versions of Telltale games on decent machines, they still run terribly.
We see, we talked about this in the past, and I've heard murmurs. I've heard a bit of a rumor about why this is with Telltale. I've heard rumors that the way that Telltale work in terms of their games is that when they make a series, and this kind of makes sense this makes sense for financial reasons and for safety as a business, sure. But in terms of quality product, it's not like the best. But the way they apparently do it is whenever they're making a new series, they make the first episode, and then the money that they get off of that funds the rest of the series. So it means that, and this kind of makes sense. This is not like news or confirmed, it's just something I've heard, right, from a couple of people. But that kind of makes sense because it's like, well, often you get episode 1 and everyone's like, when's episode 2? And they're like, we'll tell you later. And it's like, I've always been confused about why they don't have like, why it isn't like clockwork, like episode 1 ends and they say episode 2 will be out on this day. It's like, they don't really know. And I think that also explains why a lot of the games end up being like really good, but like so full of bugs and stuff because they just don't have. They're working on a time scale. It doesn't make sense.
That, a big company like that would have that shit. They're not just like, right, no one start work until this game goes out and we know how much money we've got to do.
You think that, but apparently that's how they work. And apparently,
I really hope that's not true.
Well, it kind of would make sense. And actually, it kind of, from a safety perspective, it makes sense because if you're doing what they're doing and making so many things, it means they can afford to have damp squibs rather than spending tons of money on something which doesn't launch. But you would have thought with something like, some of the recent stuff.
Something like Game of Thrones, you'd think.
This would sell.
They'd have a big chunk of money up front.
Who knows? Who knows? That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But yeah, I think I don't think Life is Strange necessarily shows it up, but it does. Life is Strange on a technical level is certainly a much better product.
Yes.
This is a simple question from Jordan. Asks, what does stoating mean?
I don't know.
I don't know what it means.
I always use this on
stoating is I shouldn't really be using it because it's more of a West Coast word, but it's like a Glaswegian word for brilliant, basically.
Okay,
that's stoating. That's cracking.
That's stoating.
That's smashing. Yeah,
I like that.
I've got Scammell saying it now. It's great.
Stoating.
And Brat saying it as well.
But he's dead.
He's dead, so he doesn't say any words.
I mean, he doesn't say it anymore because he's under that bus. But
he may have said something as he was dying, but the paramedic didn't make it out.
Crumbs.
Hashtag crumbs. And finally, a question from somebody called Immaculate Sandwich, which I've got lots of time for. Podcast question, in full caps. If you could remake an old 8-bit game with HD visuals, what would it be? And how successful would it be? That's an interesting question.
I'd remake Elite. Somebody's done it, and it's been quite successful. So there's my answer.
I would remake. I don't even know if it's 8-bit, but I don't give a fuck because it's one of my favorite ever games. Power Blade on the NES.
If it was on the NES, it probably was.
Power Blade was fucking amazing. It's about this. It's basically the screen, the cover is Arnold Schwarzenegger. They took Arnold Schwarzenegger, put him in a game, and he's really good with boomerangs.
Did they know? Did they know that they were just taking him?
They knew exactly what they were doing.
I'm trying to work out if this is
Rodland.
I think I'm going to say Rodland.
We talked about this on regular basis, didn't we?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's 8-bit or not, but we talked about this, I think, on regular features when me and Steve suddenly both remembered that we played it and we couldn't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
It was a game on a bunch of things, arcade, Amiga,
you're right.
Rodland.
Yeah, Rodland.
And I get really excited about Rodland now simply because it wasn't until Steve mentioned it that I was like, that game, what is it called? Because I've had strong memories of playing it as a kid, but I've never had any idea what it was called.
Yeah.
I just remembered it was like, I thought you were a fairy and the enemies went over your head back and forth. I saw videos of it. It actually looks quite good.
It is really good, yeah. There's actually a game that, after we talked about Rodland on regular features, there's actually a game that me and Steve talked about, and he can't think of what it's called, and I can't think of what it's called. And it was a PC game that was, if anybody can help us with this, it'd be fucking amazing. But it's basically like Worms, but you were UFOs.
Oh,
And
I
you
remember
could, like,
that.
shoot around planets and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was so good.
It was incredible.
And you could like burrow through planets to get at people. It was exactly like Worms.
It was exactly like Worms.
Except you were UFOs and it was planets.
And I remember the thing about it that blew me away was there were so many weapons.
Yeah, loads.
It was
Absolutely
insane.
loads, yeah.
And you could have I love one of them. There was like you could fire it round and then it'd be like a little walker that would land on a planet and it would flip around walking around the planet until it hit their UFO. Because I remember that was insane because it was loads of planets and each of the planets had gravity.
Yes, that's right. So you could shoot like something. It would like go round one and like shotgun round one and come straight back
It became
round.
these amazing
Slingshot round
trick
one.
shots of slingshotting around with
yeah.
gravity and then landing it on a planet and it would burrow.
Nobody knows what it's called.
Oh, I bought that.
It was wicked.
Because I remember I had a demo and then I saw it in a shop in a bargain bin in game once and was like, oh, I need this game.
I bet it's called like UFOs or something.
No,
UFO Worms.
it was
by Team 17.
It wasn't. It was definitely like a rip-off, but it was
Yeah.
one of those things where it was like, this is a rip-off, and it's
But it's
really
good,
lo-fi, but it did enough different that it was
Yeah.
like, I like this.
If anyone knows what that is, please,
That sounds
please
better
let
than
me know. Yeah.
every Worms game since the first
Aye.
one. So.
No, I honestly think the best Worms game was Worms 2.
Yeah, Worms 2 definitely. Yeah.
And after that, it went downhill. Because the thing with Worms 2 was, and they never did anything like it since, it was really odd. It was, they just made it like massively open source. So they just made it so like Worms 2 had loads of weapons in it, like loads. And then they started taking them out and then making them like in each game they'd be like, oh, this one's got this in it. And you're like, yeah, but Worms 2 had everything in it. Like,
Yeah.
but then also Worms 2 had an editor, which meant you could create your own weapons
so good.
by tweaking. Like it gave you like all of the sliders you needed to be like, how big do you want the explosion? How big do you want the blast? So you can make weapons that had huge explosions but did no damage, or weapons that had tiny explosions but had huge damage and huge like knocking worms off. And it even allowed you had a system so you could like make custom sound sets. And me and my brother worked out that by using a crap microphone and then speeding up the recordings by 100% in Microsoft Sound Recorder, you could make yourself sound like a worm, and then you could have your own custom packs. And oh man, I get really excited thinking about Worms 2. It's good times.
Making your own sound packs. We used to do that on Amiga games. Worms was probably one of them actually, because I'm sure you could do that with the first one, but it was like a bit more like, you know, you had to go into the files and stuff and whatever. But I just remember doing shit like that. There was another one. There was a game. Oh fuck! It was on the Amiga format cover disc like one year, and it was called Nerds or something. And it was literally. I remember even how they described it in the magazine. It was like it was like loads of public domain games they used to put on. Like the modern equivalent would be like fucking Gunman Dan or whatever it's called.
Gunman Clive.
That's the one.
Call him by his name. Gunman Dan.
Gunman Dan. I don't know where that came from. But it was called Nerds, and it was like, so nerds give you a screen full of nerds and they all deserve to die. And it was literally just a massacre simulator. And when I'm talking out of my face now, it sounds absolutely terrible. It was just like, it's like little pixelated characters and they all made like little noises. And it was like, you had a timer. And if I remember rightly, the game was just like, get rid of all these nerds in a specific amount of time. And you had all these different weapons and stuff. And it was just like, it was the same sprite for every single one. It was just thousands of these little people just walking around. But when they died, they said stuff like about quadratic equations or whatever, and it was fucking mental. But yeah, that was great back in those days. Making like
I just love that. I remember
modding was so like easy.
I remember like that, and I still weirdly get a pang of excitement because some modern games still do this, and I'm always like. But I remember the excitement when I realised that X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, all of the a lot of the images, especially when you loaded up the game, it came up with that kind of square pitch thing. X-Wing versus TIE Fighter was loading the game, were just JPEGs.
Yeah,
and it was like I can just go into MS Paint and draw a cock on just a big cock, so that when it loads up the game, it will have a big cock.
That's basically tearaway.
Figuring out how to do that on the Windows startup screen and doing it on like your dad's computer or something.
Ding, ding, ding,
Who
ding,
drew
ding.
this cock? Yeah.
But I still have that weird, I can't remember what game I was playing recently. I was playing a modern game on the PC and I found a folder for it and I was like, I can just draw pictures of cocks and they'll appear in the game. Being like, this is magic.
I love the fact your dad didn't know there was you who'd done it. Because it was my house to be like, who drew this cock? Well, it was Gav, wasn't it? Like, Gav, come here. I'm going to fucking belt you.
I've just realised, actually, talking about the modding scene, I won't spoil anything about it, but what episode of Regular Features is it with your whole thing about the Quake?
I think
because that's a plug that's worth having.
I think if you search regular features Quake, you'll find it.
Yeah, let me try and see if we can find it
And
quickly.
It's only a
Yes.
52. There you go.
Episode 52 of Regular Features if you want to hear an absolutely incredible story about modding and Quake. I won't say anything else because Jesus Christ, it's a roller coaster. But yeah, that's probably one of my favourite stories of all time.
Yeah, it's good.
Well worth the listen.
It's really sad.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us for this episode
No
of
worries, that
Daft
was
Souls.
fantastic.
And yes, if anyone got, if you'd like this podcast, it already exists. If you like it, then you can review it on iTunes, I suppose. I don't have iTunes, so if you don't want to do that, then I can't blame you because it's a horrible piece of software. But if you've got it, then why not? And
I think every little helps.
yeah, obviously we've had Gav who's making videos on IGN, and Jim who's making videos on Video Gamer in a dressing gown.
Yeah.
I don't get
I
the weird
just sit at my
dressing
desk in the dressing gown now.
gown. Just in case. Are you making a video today, Jim? Maybe.
Why do you ask? It's my business and mine alone. Bring me my slippers.
It's either that or I'm playing Morrowind, isn't it? So
Yeah, just combine the two and just stop going to work.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.